She does all the laundry, and I take out all the trash. There are exceptions, but the reason is because she's afraid of raccoons. And if she's afraid that there's going to be a raccoon in the dumpster.
That's opposite. Opposite.
I like to hunt. I like to fish.
Read and spend time at school.
Her type A, get it done now type of behavior definitely clashes with my, as long as the job is completed, I don't see why it can't be completed tomorrow type of mentality.
Up and down, near and far, it's clear to see.
I want to go on an Alaskan cruise.
And I want to go on a Caribbean cruise. So we'll compromise and
we'll go on an
to
Iowa
the Caribbean.
cruise.
That two things are called opposites when they're just as different as they can be. Opposite.
A lot of times I'll do like an accent or just sort of like a character that I came up with, and stone face, like the hardest audience ever, and then she'll follow it up with, "You are so weird."
I do say that a lot.
You're so weird.
But that's a good thing, a thing that I really like about you, that compliments me well, because I do not have that in me. I would prefer to be behind the scenes rather than in front and be the main character.
Yeah, I'm the actor, she's the director.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to put it.
That is a good way to put it.
You and me, we're different as can be. We always disagree, opposites. I sit, I stand, but we go hand in hand, on water or on land, opposites.
That's one difference about us. He loves to watch movies and remember everything that he's seen and talk about it. I haven't seen many movies. I like to watch them and enjoy them, but I don't remember every bit of them. So sometimes that creates a little friction because...
But you feel like you have, because I know them all.
Yeah, that's right. You make up for my lacking in that area.
I'll bet you could walk all day in a pair of shoes like that and not feel a thing.
Yep. There you go. That's my husband.
I sit, I stand, but we go hand in hand, on water or on land, opposites, opposites, opposites.
We're pretty good about dissolving arguments quickly.
Mm-hmm. Get Brett to go somewhere warm and tropical if there are activities involved. So we think we've compromised on going on a cruise, because then there'll be tons of fun things to do, but also you'll get a tan while you're doing it.
Which is the whole point. That's the whole reason we're going on. Yeah, so to get a tan.
Yeah. We're compromising and going with my choice.
That is one of the things that I've learned even before marriage, is that the best way to compromise is to simply go with whatever she says.
Thank you.
A happy wife is a happy life. It does make me feel good that I let her have her way. Sometimes.
I don't have my way all the time. But I do think that living together has helped me to see that there are things that I need to be less worked up about, and that you can do well, and that there's not one way to do it. We think that we probably crossed paths early in our lives at a speech contest or at some state contests, maybe on a golf course somewhere, because we both were golfers in high school, but we actually met at Iowa State through a mutual friend of ours who I went to high
I
school.
remember the first time that I saw you. Do you remember? To the dorm room, and I remember opening the door, and there you were on the futon. And I remember just kind of, I don't remember if I thought, wow, that's someone that I would like to date. I know that you're someone that I wanted to know. But I remember is that you were very giggly. That friend said, hey, did you know that Rachel likes you? And then I thought, what? Really? And that's when I really started to think, you know, maybe I like her too. And we were friends first, but it was only for, well, I don't know, 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it was...
Sparks flew.
Summer vacation hit, 2 weeks after we started dating. So
Yeah,
we spent that next summer doing every fun activity imaginable. Going to the zoo,
Well,
going golfing, going to iCubs games.
I don't know about that. It was like we met, we went on one date, we hung out for like a week, and we left. And then she went to Grinnell, I went back to Earlham, and then...
We would meet in Des Moines
Yeah,
and
I
see
guess
each
we
other.
would meet in Des Moines, but it wasn't that often. It was kind of like... It was, I don't know.
A couple times a month, probably.
We didn't meet enough.
I remember the first date. He, went and cleaned his car. And...
In the car, I just can't wait to pick you up on our very first date. Is it cool if I hold your hand? Is it wrong if I think it's lame to dance? Do you like my stupid hair? Would you guess that I didn't know what to wear? I'm just scared of what you think. You make me nervous, so I really can't eat.
Yeah.
It
And I
went
had to
over.
clean my car because I had spilled Mountain Dew all over and didn't clean it right away, so it smelled like mold.
Since then,
It was
should've-
bad. It
I
was really
should've-
bad. I still remember it because I spent like 2 days cleaning it, and then, well, you remember. What was the first thing you saw when you got in my car?
The air freshener. It was beautiful,
I had
and
to
he
clean it.
he had the music that I liked. Went to our favorite place for dinner. It was him.
I can't believe that I did that. I emailed her. I asked her, "Hey, what's your favorite music?" Like, trying to be cool about it. And she was like, "Well," and then she sent me like a list of songs, and then I burned a CD of like 10 songs, and they had like Coldplay and stuff on it. And I remember thinking, this is gonna be really. She's gonna get in my car, and I'm gonna say, "All right, we're gonna go on our date," and then I'm gonna pop in this CD, and it's gonna have all our favorite music. And it's, looking back, it's totally lame. It's a lame,
It was sweet.
a lame thing to do.
It was
The
very
first
nice.
thing that we did was we both went to look at rings
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to buy one that she was going to pretend to like.
So one day in the fall, September or October, he just said, "Let's go to the mall and let's look at rings." Of course, that was very exciting to me. So we went and tried a few on and ended up picking out 2 that we liked, and we left it at that. And I didn't hear much about it. I didn't ask about it for a couple months.
I had to come up with an excuse to go back to Grinnell to talk to your parents because I wanted to ask their permission first. So I called Liz and told her that I had a Christmas present for Rachel. It was delivered to the house, and I didn't want her to see it, and that I had to bring it to Grinnell to hide it and leave it there. So that was the premise. And I drove to Grinnell, and Liz and Jay were there, and they said, "Where's a present?" And I said, "I don't have a present." And I asked, told them our intentions, I guess, whatever. And so that went over fine. That went well. Everyone was excited. It came back. And then I think 2 or 3 days later, middle of the day, it was like it was like a Saturday, and the idea was to pick up the ring, bring it home, like get it, put it in my pocket, whatever. And then I told Rachel that we were going to go out to eat that night. She didn't know where we were going, but I was going to take her to Wallabies, where we had our first date. The problem was that a snowstorm came in and completely covered the roads. So I decided that I would just put the ring in her stocking because our stockings were up. It was
Like a couple weeks before.
It was a couple weeks before. It wasn't. Then she came home and I was like, "Oh, how's it going?" And we hugged. And then I just couldn't help myself, and I was like, "I think you got something in your stocking. I might want to check it out."
That's nice.
And she was like, "What? Like in my stocking?" And then she went over, and then she got in her stocking, and she was like, something small. I don't know what it could be. And then she pulled it out, and then she was like, speechless. And then she gave it to me.
Yeah.
I was like,
I remember holding it and being like, what do I do with this now?
thank you. And then I was like, okay. So then I opened it, and I got down on one knee right there in the living room.
Yeah, my side is slightly different. While you were telling lies to cover up his whole week of shenanigans, I knew something was going on. That's my personality. I know if something is moved a little bit. He one night said that he needed to go help a friend move. And I was like, oh, great. He's like, so I need to go over there and help him, and I need to move his bed with him. I'm like, great. He's like, I'll be back in a couple hours.
In December.
Yeah. So he left and came back, and I was like, oh, how'd it go? And he's like, oh, I had to go back in a couple hours. He wasn't there. I'm like, okay. Great. You guess you didn't get everything done. So he left and then came back and,
Had to go back to the ring store because didn't get it all figured out.
I know. But I knew something was kind of going on. Like, he's acting a little bit funny. Like, he usually doesn't have things like this going on that often. So I, told my friends at work, I think something's going on. It could be a proposal. And they're like, oh, don't think about it too much because you don't want to spoil it. So I did kind of take that route. I wouldn't have wanted to know and to spoil it, but then it was around Christmas time, so I remember calling him one night after work and said, let's go Christmas shopping. He's like, nope, sorry, can't. I'm like, oh, why can't we go shopping? He's like, I'm going shopping with my mom. I said, okay, well, we'll just all go together. And he's like, nope, I have to go just with her tonight. I was like, okay. So put that with the night before where he had to move a bed twice with the same friend, and now I can't go shopping the next night with him. I knew something was up. Then, after the fact, I realized that, my mom had been avoiding me.
Sherlock Hansen is on the case.
I would call my mom, and she would text me back and say, how was your day? I'm like, well, good. Thanks, why didn't you answer? And she's like, well, I'm just busy. No, the shopping night, the reason I couldn't go was because he didn't go shopping with his mom. He drove to Grinnell and had talked to my parents.
And that's when I started a flow chart, putting everything together.
Yeah. So I knew, I didn't know that he was in Grinnell, but then my mom was avoiding me and not talking to me. And then Saturday, I think I finally was like, whatever, I'm done trying to be Sherlock and figure this out. His mom asked to go to lunch on Saturday afternoon. So we're eating lunch, and we sat probably and chatted longer than we had, the last time we went out to eat. So she's like, are you ready to go? I'm like, oh, sure. So she's like, okay, I'll see you later. And we leave lunch, and meanwhile, she's calling him saying, she's on her way home. We just left. So I'm trotting home, and I get there, and he's standing at the top of the stairs, in the kitchen when I get there. And I was like, hello. And he's like, welcome home. How are you?
When I knew.
No, it wasn't until I came and gave you a hug and your heart was beating out of your chest that I knew. And so then you said your whole, I think Santa came early this year.
It couldn't have been that I'd just gone for a run.
No.
Or
I went
that I had been on the Stairmaster.
No. I went over to my stocking and pulled it out. And I do remember opening it up and seeing it and then handing it back to him because what was I supposed to do with it? So, then I called my mom and dad, and of course my mom's like, I'm so sorry, I had to avoid you, and she's crying. She's like, I'm so happy he came here on Wednesday, and so that was how it went. And there was a big snowstorm that night. We did manage to go out for dinner, but it wasn't to Wallabies.
And then I saw that there was a footprint in the yard, and that it looked like Brett's, but there's no reason that he'd be going north on that day. He would have been coming south, so I thought there was something that he must have been at Helzberg's that day.
Okay. You.